Who said we don't tackle the big subjects? OK, we've done potholes at last. Right.
I'm sorry, they haven't. They've not even scratched the surface, they've not started, and nobody was taking it seriously. It was all just a big joke, and frankly I find that quite disappointing.
Yeah.
So there are potholes everywhere. Why are our roads in such a state of disrepair?
I can assure you that I've got a sense of humour and I'm up for a laugh as much as the next guy. But I have to say that the recent debate on potholes on Question Time was a little bit unedifying, certainly from the perspective of the politicians. The subject comes up and everybody just bursts into laughter. Why is this a debate that is not taken seriously? Why is it that politicians feel the need to make false claims about how much money they're investing on repairing the roads and solving the problem, rather than just being upfront and honest and accept that they're just not spending enough money? So let's look at what was said. The Labour MP said that the government is investing £1.6 million to give the local authorities the funds that they need to solve the problem.
What are you doing about it?
Well, we're investing £1.6 billion to ensure that we fill these potholes and we give councils the resources they need to do that.
When can we expect to feel that there are fewer potholes on our roads?
Well, very soon.
Oh, come on, Emma. Come on, you've got to do better than that.
Well, look, we've only been in power for 7 months and we've had a terrible winter. But yes, we are giving councils more resource to fill in these potholes.
They're claiming that this is a 50% increase on previous years. Well, that's just not true. I'm sorry, it's just misleading, may be the word that you can use for it. I prefer to say is just not true. Let's just take a closer look at the details of what the funding actually is. Now, what they say is that the government is investing 1.6 billion, and that this is a 50% increase on previous years. But then when you look back at what previous governments have said, I mean, does everybody not remember the fact that the Conservative government before them said that they were investing an extra 8.3 billion over 11 years to increase the amount of funding that is going into repairing the roads? The Department for Transport's Permanent Secretary, Dame Bernadette Kelly, has outlined that the local maintenance spending for 2025-26 is as follows. A base of 1.125 billion, 150 million annual Network North top-up, 500 million one-off boost announced in the budget, giving you a total of 1.775 billion.
Is it hypothecated 2 potholes? So it's not that they can say, we're a bit short of cash, we'll spend it on social care or something else? I'm putting you on the spot here because this is not something you know about.
Potholes is not my policy.
OK, all right, all right.
But then they go and admit that there's an incentive element of this, and 25% of these funds will actually be held back if local authorities don't meet certain criteria which they don't outline in public. But yeah, they're already giving themselves the excuse to say, well, the councils didn't do something right, and therefore it is we're not going to spend all this money that we've just promised. So that 1.6 billion, it may never get delivered. The way that these things are set up is so opaque that you cannot tell how much money is being spent. And this isn't just me saying this. This is I've got here a report from the Public Accounts Committee. What they say here is that there are 12 separate funds of money that go into the funding for roads maintenance. So obviously we've got a complicated system. The Department for Transport admits that the funding for local roads has become more complex, with 12 different funding pots now in place. So the Department for Transport also acknowledged that the funding is not streamlined, and acknowledged arguments for simplification to allow local authorities to spend the money more effectively. So they know that this complicated system which allows for smoke and mirrors claims from the politicians as to how much is actually being spent, they know it's overly complicated, and they know that is causing the problem. So why are they not fixing this? They admit that the government funding normally comes for local authorities normally comes in 1-year packages. So unlike national highways, who get a 5-year funding programme and therefore they can spend the money more effectively, why do they not just apply this to local authorities? what always happens, obviously, if you ask the Department for Transport, they will say, well, it's not really our problem. This is down to the Treasury. It's down to somebody else to make the decision. It's a decision made by the Treasury and the government during the next phase of the spending review to decide what time period will be covered by the department's funding. So what we get is this usual obfuscation, claiming that it's not my problem, it's somebody else's fault. Nobody will actually grip this and take a decision. What we need is parliamentarians, MPs, who admit that this is a question that comes up all the time.
Potholes. That comes up week after week after week after week.
Day after day, week after week, whenever we go door knocking, we talk to people and we say, what are the big issues? What are the things you really care about? What are the things you're really hacked off about? They often say potholes.
But I represent a rural constituency and potholes are a huge issue. They come up on the door knockings as well.
But as they've just demonstrated on the question time debate, have no real idea what's going on, no understanding of what the funding model is, no understanding of whether or not this is enough money or not. They just want to point the fingers. So you obviously get the Labour MP saying we're investing records amount of money, clearly not understanding that this is not a record amount of money, and even if it was a record amount of money, it still would only be about half what is actually needed. You then get the Conservative MP saying, well, there's going to be local elections, make sure you elect a local council that will actually fix the potholes.
See that?
People care so much about potholes. We've got local elections coming up, so look at what your council does.
Well, I'm
Make a
asking you,
decision on that.
Local councils can't fix the potholes if they don't have the money to do it. So again, this is a deflection. This is taking away from the fact that, yes, as an MP, you know that every voter really cares about this problem. We've had it said by every party. Everybody is when they're knocking on the doors, every party is being told, you need to fix the potholes, you need to repair the roads. And what do? They just smile, make a few bland promises, and then just let things get worse. And we can see that it's getting worse. If you look at this year's alarm report, what they're saying is that a one-time catch-up would take 12 years to complete and cost 16.81 billion. But if you just look back to last year, what were they saying last year? So last year what they said is that a one-time catch-up would take 10 years to complete and cost 16.3 billion. So yes, in just 12 months, we've gone from a 16.3 billion deficit to a 16.81 billion deficit. Now, that's over 500 million extra money that is required just to deal with the backlog, not to actually repair all the roads to a suitable standard. This is just to catch up to a point where we're standing still, not improving. So, yeah, all these claims that the government's putting in the money and solving the problem, frankly, do not ring true. It's misleading, it's smoke and mirrors, making up numbers, not really understanding the problem. So when you're considering whether or not you should have a conversation with an MP, maybe add this one to your list. Ask them to look into the details. We don't expect everybody to be experts, but it doesn't take that much effort to find this information. I can find it in 5 minutes, why can't they? And once they've found this information and realise the depth of the problem, why don't they actually do something about it? It comes down to a will to solve the problem. It's nothing more. The politicians are in the position, they're elected to solve this problem. Every voter in the country wants the problem solved, so why are we going to get a government and a bunch of MPs in place that will actually do this? So have this conversation. They're your MP, they've been elected, whether you voted for them or not. They're elected to represent your views, and you can guarantee that whoever did vote for them wanted the potholes fixed. So hold their feet to the fire. What are they doing about it? Why aren't they solving it? The fact of the matter is, if you don't want to have to be visiting up to 75 of your mates in hospital, or worse still at the morgue, you need to get a grip of this. It's unfortunate to see that even the audience were treating this whole debate as a joke.
Yeah, there's a pothole at the end of my street. It's deeper than the Grand Canyon.
You've got one person fixing the pothole, another 3 people watching him fixing the pothole, and 2 people sitting in the van watching them all doing X amount of jobs.
They're doing the AI.
I'm sure that people...
I'm happy to have a joke and a laugh about things, but we do need to get serious. We do need to solve this problem. The fact that on average 75 motorcyclists every year can report the fact that poor road surfaces were a contributory factor to the crash that led to them being in a hospital, or worse still, the morgue, is something that needs to be addressed. We are the worst affected as motorcyclists by poor road surfaces. It's not just an inconvenience, it's not all a big joke, this really is life and death for us. Maybe that's a conversation you could have with your local MP, see what reaction you get. Let us know how you get on.
Said it was bad, and actually I had some friends visiting from Ukraine who live in the middle of a war zone, and we were driving and they looked around and went, there's quite a lot of potholes here, Constantine, so it's clearly an issue, and it sounds, based on what we've heard tonight, that the way to solve it is to have another election.